the habitat to help the fisheries and the local wildlife. And every habitat that we assess and we look at, each one's different, right? So every fish species has different needs. It requires different timings, like your spawning is different times of the year. So there is a knowledge that is needed. And we are working to help protect some of those fisheries. So we take the information that we learn from the scientists, and we work closely with authorities like the MNRF, and we work with them to help enhance the fishery. Back in 2019, right before COVID, we launched our Fish Habitat Enhancement Toolkit, and this was based on the projects that we were undertaking at the time. So they're easy to follow step-by-step guides and protocols to doing a successful stewardship project on your lake and for Ontario. And we have a set of protocols as well as videos that accompany them. And it is created for community groups and associations, fish and game clubs, and they're all available online free of charge. Each protocol provides you with the detailed written guidelines for your project. And we look into everything. We're like, what is the habitat that you want to assess? What is the reason behind the project? What are you noticing in your lake or river that has made you want to, or is causing you concern? Let's just say that. We look at the step-by-step of that habitat, how to plan a successful project. Who are the stakeholders involved? What authorities must you contact and chat with? You have to do a lot of research for an enhancement project. You need to make sure that it's not just because you want to do it. There has to be a need. And working closely with local authorities, you're able to find out if that need is validated. Maybe they're seeing concerns in their broad scale netting. They are seeing a decline in walleye stocking, in spawning. Maybe they're seeing lower class, like smaller class fish aren't being as prominent anymore. So you want to make sure that you do the research first before you just jump into a project. And it can take more than a month to do a project, like multiple years. So you need to give yourself that time to figure it all out and figure out the steps. And these protocols help you do that. So some of the projects that we are involved in are cold water creek enhancements. And a cold water creek is one that is groundwater fed. And it usually maintains a temperature of less than 19 degrees all year round, even in August. And it has flow. It has flow even in the driest of times. There's no precipitation that's inputting it, very little that maintains it. You can see it's made up of pools and riffles, and there's really great flow. And hopefully there's vegetation along that shoreline. It is also home to brook trout habitat, and that's what made us start working on these projects. In Lanark County, there were only 5 cold water brook trout creeks. So we worked closely actually with Guelph and started figuring out which creeks needed help and based our protocols on those fish projects. So for cold water creek, what we tend to do is focus more on the riparian habitat. So what's on the shoreline? Because we want to make sure that the water temperature stays cold. That is key for brook trout. So for our projects, we tend to choose a couple species that are fast growing and will cause big canopies quickly. So we usually use black willow or silver maple. We cage our trees, as you can see, and we also choose larger stock because we want to give it a chance. If you use a very small tree, it usually gets out-competed by these grasses. We also put down cardboard and fiber mats. We staple them all in to try and give that tree a chance. And by planting that shoreline, you're helping to create shade, which will lower the temperatures, like I said. You'll also prevent future erosion and sedimentation of that creek. So another project that we work on are in-water brush piles or brush bundles. Woody debris is really important in lakes. Normally, or in a natural lake that had no development, there would be a ton of woody debris, and it would all be deposited by beavers, by the wind, by flows and flooding, and not by man, obviously. So, and that's natural. Fish love woody debris. They love the branches. They love the root balls. But with development happening around lakes, a lot of people are cleaning up their shorelines, and they are not letting those trees fall into the lakes anymore. They think it's a hazard, or it goes right into their swimming area. So what we do with this brush bundle project is we reintroduce some woody debris, small amounts of it, anchored with, I'll go to the next one because I got pictures. Okay, there we go. So we take local brush, and again, we work with local authorities to make sure that there is a need for this project. We just don't want to put things into the lake that don't need to be there. But we use cinder blocks, and we tie them, and we use a rope that will not break down with UV or with rot. And we anchor these brush bundles in place in strategic areas. They have to be greater than 12 feet so that they do not pose a hazard to boats. But they also can be in back bays where there's not a lot of boat traffic. We also don't put it right in front of somebody's house because we don't want to cause issues with your neighbors. But if you did want one, we would put it there. Not gonna lie.
I got one.
And we noticed that right away, fish go to the brush bundle. We've had it where within a week, we put GoPro cameras down and the fish are there. So it's natural. And they just know it's used for cover, it's used for to hide from predators, it's used for resting, it's used for feeding and spawning. And it's a really great community project as well. This is another example of one that we recently did just out of COVID on Olmsted and Jeffrey Lakes, which we have the association here too. And this was a really great community project because not only did we work with the Lake Association, we also worked with the Muskrat Watershed Council. And we worked with Algonquin College environmental programs. So they brought their students out, and the students got to build their own brush bundles as teams, and they got to deploy them. And they got to learn about healthy fish habitat. They also got to plant the shoreline with Chloe and the Natural Edge. So they got a day of learning about field work and stewardship and restoration and community, all in the span of 4 hours. So this was a really great project, and we were able to place 25 bundles on the 2 lakes. So very exciting. So you definitely need your community involved too, because what we're finding is if the community is involved in the project, they take ownership of it. So, and then they start doing other things around their property. They're like, wait, I just helped the fish there. Well, maybe I can plant a little bit on my shoreline. And it just escalates more and more. And then the neighbor sees it, well, what are you doing? Well, and they talk, people talk, and they share. So having the community on board is really, really important. Another project that we are involved with is walleye spawning beds. And we've done quite a few restorations where we have helped enhance a historic walleye spawning bed. And walleye spawning beds and trout spawning beds, you really have to partner with the Ministry of Natural Resources on this one, because they look at their management plans, they have the data to support it, and they have the numbers to show whether or not that fishery is reproducing or not. And it could be as simple as there's silt on the historic walleye bed. Walleye are instinctual and they will go back to the same bed every year, and it's ingrained in them. So if they get there and they may still spawn, but if there is silt or algae on the bed, the eggs can't get oxygenated and your recruitment goes down a lot. So that's where we can help. So we have, I'll just go to the next one here. So this is an example actually on White Lake of a river. This is on Paris Creek where we helped restore the walleye spawning bed. This creek flooded out and silted out. And the rock was completely covered up and had been pushed out of the creek. And it was historically known for being a substantial spawning area. So we worked with local crews. This is the M. Sullivan and Son construction company. They donated everything of their crew. They had a 3-person crew. They also donated the barge and the dump trailer. We helped purchase the rock. We worked with the Lanark County Stewardship Council and Wendell Crosby. This is one of my first projects I got to work with him on. And we restored 3 spawning beds on this lake. And from what I understand from Conrad and David here, the walleye population has improved tremendously, which is really, really exciting to see. It takes a few years to see it, but then when you finally do start getting the data in, it's very exciting. We also do winter projects because having the equipment to do it in the end of summer is a lot. But this makes it a little bit easier. Now this is on particular lakes because some lakes have a current, and this type of winter project, you can't do that because the ice will move, and so will your spawning bed. But on a lake that doesn't have flow, this can be a really great option for us. So this is an example where we placed rock on the ice. So the Lake Association kept a 1-kilometer trail or road on the ice to the 2 islands, and they kept that area clear. We were able to, with 50 volunteers, we also had the local Indigenous community came out, we had the local scout group come out, plus the Lake Association, and the 50 of us moved, oh my God, I think it was over 50 tons of rock, might have been more. And we placed it on 2 beds, and the kids spread it out, and then in the spring it fell. And it fell perfectly in place, as you can see the after photo there. And the Lake Association also does walleye counts. So they went out, and that spring there were walleye already on it 2 months later. So that was really exciting to see. So this is an option too. It requires more man work, or person work, sorry. But it involves the community, and you can involve youth in it. And they remember that. And they take those lessons to heart, and they take ownership and pride in your local natural environment. So the last one is our trout spawning bed enhancements. So this is something new that we've been working on and closely with the ministry. We've only done a handful now because this is, like I said, it's new, so we don't have protocols. And because trout lakes are so sensitive and regulated, we haven't decided to do a protocol yet. It should be something that is done under supervision and making sure that it is ideal for that lake. But this lake had shown, it has a natural lake trout population, and it was showing over the last 10 years, the ministry was studying it, and it was dropping and dropping. And so they asked if we could find funding to cover this, and we washed the bed first. I think I have some pictures, let me see. Yes. So part 1 took place in September, and it had to be before September 30th because lake trout spawn from October to December. So we, as you can see here in the before picture, it was extremely silty. silty, and so we had volunteers out. We had about 25 volunteers come out with brooms, and we had a high pressure hose and gas powered pump that was donated to us from OFAH Zone F. They had purchased one for this and they lent it to us, and we were able to high pressure wash and contain the silt in silt curtains, and then bring that silt curtain up onto the land far away from the water and clean it off. So we were able to remove the silt in this bay. And I'll show you part two. Part two, we added some more stone, so it's smaller rock, because it requires smaller rock. And we had a great time, I'm not gonna lie. We were out there all day, spreading rock onto the lake. And again, this lake does not have a current, so it was great. It fell perfectly into place. But we had even 3 generations from one family. So the gentleman on the tractor, his son brought his son, and he took him out of school. He was only about 8 years old, but he got to help spread rock on that lake, and we got to chatting and stuff like that, and he goes, wow, I didn't realize that they lay eggs on rock. And we had a great conversation. And he's like, I learned so much. And he went back to school that afternoon and told his friends about it. And that family has been on that lake since 1960, I think. So it's something that he's going to now remember and pass on to his kids and their kids. And it was just a really, really great experience overall. So here's your before, here's your after. I'm waiting to see what the results are on that one, because that one's a new one. So, but like I said, pardon?
What lake is that? Are we allowed to say? I'm not looking.
Well, actually, it is on our website. It is Diamond Lake, and it's in Greater Madawaska, not Greater Madawaska, Madawaska Valley, so part of Pembroke District. So yeah, so all of our protocols come with videos in case you're not the type that likes to read. It's fine. But they're about 10 minutes long, and they talk about the parts of the projects, how to get involved, who to contact, and they're all available on our website or on our YouTube channel. So thank you very much.